Hey there, Misfits. We are here on a quest. It is Gen Con, and we're here at Sun King Brewery, and they've got a new beer for Gen Con. It is called Core Strategy, and we are here to find it. And where else would we find it but at Sun King Brewery? They have great stuff. So they're going to give us a tour. They're going to teach us a little bit about beer, and hopefully along the tour, we can find this stuff and maybe even have a taste. So just can't wait until we taste this stuff, if we can find it. So hope we can be successful on our quest. We'll tell you all about it. Sacred sanctum of
Taking you into the depths of Sun King.
All right.
So
Gotta look out for those guys.
Yeah, we'll be dodging forklifts and if you do see a brewer, don't look him in the eye though.
Okay, we'll definitely make sure.
They're a skittish bunch, but no, should be good. We're gonna go ahead and get some of our tools together, some safety glasses and whatnot.
Ooh, we gotta wear safety glasses.
Safety glasses, so you'll look legit.
All right. And OSHA won't jump on us.
Exactly. All right, so some glasses for you. You're good with your glasses. Glasses for you, great.
Let's get these on.
And then because you're the lucky one who wore open-toed shoes, you get to wear booties. And you get to look extra cool.
I can't get them to fit right.
Welcome to Sun King. My name is Ryan. I'll be giving you a tour today. I've been working at Sun King. It was 11 years, July 7th, I believe it was. So I've been giving tours for a long time. Back in my day, if we had 6 beers on tap, that was an insane day. That was wild. We didn't even sell pints or flights back then. We only did to-go beers. And another fun fact about me is I currently hold the record for the most growlers filled in a single day at Sun King.
Oh, wow.
I was able to hit 300 growlers in one day.
Ooh.
That was on Friday when we did $5 growler fills. Porter remembers those. Those were, we had we'd give 6 free samples to people, and then $5 growler fills of our house beers. And people, every college kid in town lined up for that. So yeah, we used to ship out a lot of growlers. But now we've grown quite a bit since then. But I'll dive in a little bit to more of the history of Sun King. So we were the brainchild of Dave Colt and Clay Robinson. They were our founders, but way before that, they brewed together downtown in a brew pub. And after a long, hard day of brewing, they'd grab a pint, they'd sit at the bar, and they started kind of throwing around the idea of like, if we could do this ourselves, what would we want our brewery to look like? And they realized they both had a couple things in common. They both wanted to make unique, seasonal, and specialty beers, things that were just kind of far out of left field, right? Corporate brew pubs kind of had a structure that you had to stick within. They wanted to be able to have fun. They're like, if we want to put cupcakes, cookies, pine needles, what have you into a beer, we want to be able to do that. They also wanted to make beer just for Indiana. They wanted to be a craft beer just for the Hoosier State, kind of like New Glarus up in Wisconsin. They only make beer in Wisconsin. They wanted to be that for Indiana. And they did not want to focus on food at all. They did not want to be, they just wanted to just sell beer, just make beer, not be a brew pub, right? So they decided to commit to the idea because life's short, right? And they actually worked on it for 3 years though, making sure the business plan was in place, all the recipes needed, all the contracts, until finally on July 1st, 2009, they did brew their first batch of beer here at our downtown location. Then that last half of 2009, we did about 500 barrels of beer, which is crazy because that was originally our 5-year goal in our business plan. Then that next full year, we did 5,000 barrels of beer, and that was originally our 10-year goal. So like we had to throw that business plan away pretty quick because we just blew up and started selling like crazy. So right now, I think we're north of somewhere around 30 to 35,000 barrels a year. That puts us as the second largest brewery in the state. Three Floyds is the largest, but in terms of Indiana craft beer sold in Indiana, we do sell the most. And so it was a number of years ago when we realized, like as we started saturating the state, you know, there's Hoosiers everywhere. They kind of go and flock out, so let's go find them. And so we finally moved outside the states. You can find us in a number of states now. We also have a number of new locations. So we started distilling a number of years ago as well. You can find that up in Carmel. I have a tap room in Fishers. We're going to be opening one in Westfields, Kokomo, Sarasota, Florida. We actually got down there.
That's our joint.
There you go. Yeah, all the snowbirds that go down there, they get cold in the Indiana winters, so they got to go down to Florida. We tracked them down, found them in Sarasota. So
thankfully.
Yeah. So we have that location there. We also have Concourse B of the airport. So if you're flying and you need a pint, right?
There.
You can still find us. Yes, I go every time I go to the airport. I get a pint. So yeah, that's been great to kind of see it grow and see it launch. And again, cocktails, distilling, you name it, we've been in it. And this kind of seeing our tap rooms grow and expand has been quite the wild ride. So anyways, a little bit about us, but now we're going to dive into how we actually brew the beer. So we're surrounded by our first main ingredient here, which is our grain, or malts, as it's otherwise known. This is all a bunch of our specialty malt that we get from all over the world. As you can see here, this comes straight from Germany. So if we're trying to make a German beer, we're gonna get grain from Germany, right? But most of our grain does come here in the United States. So we get a lot of it from Montana and the Dakotas. Specialty grain will sit here, but we also have our main grain, which is our two-row malted barley, which you can see an example of here. Two-row malted barley. We're going to use about 2,000 pounds of this grain in every batch of beer that we make. We go through a lot of this grain. That's because grain gives your beer three things. It gives it flavor, color, and fermentable sugars. All right. So again, a light-colored grain like this is going to give you a light-colored beer. If you actually were to mix this two-row with some of these bags right over here that say rolled oats on it, that would give you the Sunlight Cream Ale, which is our mainstay beer. It's the beer that keeps me employed, keeps the electricity running here. It is the most popular beer that we sell.
My favorite's Pachenga.
I think someday Pachanga is gonna like outsell Cream Ale. That's my guess. Like, it's been popular ever since we released it. It's been wild. We actually go through so much of this grain that right on the other side of this wall outside we have two grain silos that each hold about 45,000 pounds of this grain alone, and we can go through one of those silos in about 7 to 10 days.
Wow.
It's a lot of grain. It's a lot of grain.
That's a lot of beer.
It's a lot of beer. We make a lot of it. Now, this next grain that we're going to look at, this is called our crystal malts. So this grain has been roasted for a small amount of time, and that roasting process is going to crystallize the sugars on the inside. It's going to give your beer a little bit more of a sweetness to it, kind of a toffee and hazelnut note, and it's going to give it a nice light brown to amber color. And then on the far end of the spectrum, you're going to have our chocolate malts, our darkly roasted malt. So this has obviously been roasted for an even longer period of time. This is going to give your beer nice coffee notes, dark chocolate notes. It's going to be used in your porters and your stouts and things like that. So whereas we use like 2,000 pounds of this grain, we're going to only have to use a couple pounds for each of these, right? So these go a long way. But all of them are going to give you the color, the flavor, and some fermentable sugars. So depending on what beer we're making, we're going to take our specialty grain, we're going to put it right in here. This is actually just a really big scale. You can kind of see it right over here. We weigh and measure it here. And then it's going to get augured over into our grist mill here. This grist mill is also going to get some of our two-row brought in from outside up there in that pipe. All of it's going to mix there together, and it's going to get cracked open, right? So each one of those black dials is going to represent a big wheel that's on the inside that's just churning over that grain and cracking it open. We're not trying to crush it. We don't need to make flour. Flour's boring. We're not a bakery. We're a brewery, right? So we just need to crack it open. That's all we need. Expose the starches. And then once that's done, it's going to sit in this tank right on the other side of this wall, where it's going to then be ready to move on to the next stage of the brewing process. And there are many different varieties of grain that you can use in your beers. We have a couple of other examples you can look at just to kind of give you an example here. So we have all these different varieties that you can see, ranging from rice to more darkly roasted malts. You can even use corn if you need. And I believe what we're looking at here is some of the rolled oats. So this is what we use in our Sunlight Cream Ale. This is going to give it that nice smooth mouthfeel that makes it a cream ale style. But once it's done here, sitting in here, we're then ready to move it on to the next stage of the brewing process, which is our brew kettle. That's where we're going to head over to next. So this is our brew deck. We operate on a 30-barrel brewing system. So to put that in perspective, a barrel of beer is 31 gallons or 2 standard kegs. I'm sure you guys have seen a keg before, right?
Oh yeah.
Maybe upside down a couple times in college.
Yep.
That's fine. We don't judge here.
Bert Kreischer taught me how to do that.
Nice. So 2 of those equals a barrel. That's 31 gallons. That means we can crank out just over 930 gallons of beer in a single go with this setup, which is quite a lot. So we have a couple main components to our brew deck. We have our hot liquor tank right here. Liquor just being a fancy word for water in the brewing industry, just some old English jargon. So hot water tank. Right behind that is the mash slaughter tun. Behind that is the brew kettle. And then straight back where that guy's looking in, that is the whirlpool. So what's going to happen here is that grain that we cracked open, it's going to come through this pipe right here through the wall. That's going to auger that grain that we cracked open all the way through there, and it's going to dump it into our mash slaughter tun. So what's going to happen is we're then going to mix water with that at about 165 plus degrees. And and that's going to create what we call worts, W-O-R-T. It's basically just real sugary water. That's mostly what a brewery does, is make sugar water. So it just looks like soggy, wet oatmeal at this point, but a very important stage of the brewing process. Got a big comb inside of there that's going to mix that water and that grain together to create the wort. Takes about 20-30 minutes for that to happen, and then once it's done, we're going to send it through something called the Vorlauf process. It's just a German word that means to recirculate, because we're now going to try to separate that grain from that wort, because all we want is that liquid wort now. We don't need any of that grain. So we're going to separate those two. That takes about another 20-30 minutes. Once that's done, we're left with a bunch of wort that we're then going to send to the brew kettle. But now we have a bunch of grain left over that we don't need, right? What we do with that, though, is we don't just throw it away. We actually deposit that in some grain trucks in our back parking lot. We have Farmer Mike and Farmer John who show up a couple times a week. We deposit that grain right into their farm trucks, and they take that to go feed their cattle, use it as compost, whatever they need.
Awesome.
So, yeah, it's a nice little way that we give back. Don't have to pay for anybody to dispose of it, so it's a nice little win-win. Now that we have that wort, we're going to put it into our brew kettle. We're going to add the next ingredient, which is this rabbit food. Obviously not. This is hops. These are pelletized hops. An actual hop is going to be a nice green flowery cone, right? But most breweries will use pelletized hops because they break down a lot better, last a lot longer, much better to boil with. So these are an example of our Cascade hop. You can actually give it a smell if you want. Get a nice big whiff of that.
Oh, yeah.
It's very, very rich, very citrusy. Strong. So just like with grain, hops are going to give you three things, but they're going to give you bitterness, flavor, and aroma. They're going to help to balance out the sweetness that comes from that grain and give it that nice bitterness that you find in some of the beers, right? So we're going to add that straight to the brew kettle. Now, how much we add depends on the beer, right? So if we have like our Osiris, which is a West Coast style pale ale, we're going to put in about 2.5 pounds of this hop for about every 31 gallons. And right, we can do about 30 barrels, so that's quite a lot of hops we got to put in there. But if we were to make the Sunlight Cream Ale, we only use about 2.5 pounds of hops per 930 gallons, right? So very, very different measurements that we're doing there. So, but all beers have to have hops, but the ratio will change and be a little bit different. So we'll add the hops, we'll add any other special ingredients that we want to add in. And then from there, we're going to let it boil anywhere from 60 to 120 minutes, just depending on the beer. Once it's done boiling, we're going to send it through that whirlpool and we're going to clean it up, right? We're going to create a vortex inside of that. That vortex is going to force all the hop matter to the bottom of the tank so that we have now the nice clear liquid wort that we're ready to send off to the next stage of the brewing process, which is going to be these tanks right over here. And that's what we're going to head over to next. That's what the FV stands for on the side of these tanks. Fermentation vessel. This is where we go through the process of fermentation, which is where we are going to add yeast to that liquid wort that we created. The yeast is going to eat that sugar and it's going to create a couple things. It's create alcohol, obviously, but it's also going to create heat and CO2. We got to control those two aspects in a couple different ways. Each one of these tanks is double wall insulated. We've got an outer wall here, and then we have an inner wall a couple inches deep. And in between those two walls, there's a coil that goes all the way up the tank that releases a refrigerant called glycol. That glycol helps us control the temperature of the tank to the exact degree that we need, which we can see right here on these boxes. Now that CO2 is going to get released out the top. It's going to come down the pipe here, and it's going to get put into this bucket of sanitizer. So you might see some of these buckets are bubbling, kind of like this one is a little bit. So this bubbling means that there is CO2 actively being deposited into this, and this is just a bucket of some iodine with water. Breaks down harmlessly in that water, so we're not living in a can of Coke, basically. So we got to get that CO2 out. Also, the CO2 would prevent the chemical process that creates the alcohol, which we got to have the alcohol. That's why we're here. So, got to get that out. Or the tank will also explode, which is also not great for business.
No, definitely.
Do not need exploding tanks. So a lot of important things happen up here. But next, it's going to create alcohol. That's why we're here. That's what keeps us employed. So how long that takes, though, depends on what family of yeast we use. We have two different families of yeast, all right? We have ale yeast and lager yeast. All beers are going to fall under those two categories. So ale yeast likes to ferment at higher temperatures, about 60 to 70 degrees. So traditionally, they only take about 2 to 3 weeks to ferment properly. What makes them unique is they're gonna have nice fruity esters to them, nice citrus notes. So our Sunline, our Weemac, our Osiris are all great examples of a nice ale. But lagers are completely different. Lagers like to ferment at much lower temperatures, about 45, 55 degrees. And so traditionally they take about 4 to 6 weeks to ferment properly. So these beers can sit in here for quite a while. They're not gonna have any fruity esters whatsoever. They're usually gonna be nice, dry and crisp beers that we get from lagers. But no matter what, when the yeast is done eating all that sugar, it's gonna go through a process called flocculation. That's gonna be the biggest word I use on the tour, so don't freak out. But flocculation is when after it's done eating that all that sugar, it's gonna start to clump together, and it's gonna kind of sit here in the cone of the tank. Sometimes we help that process out by crashing the temperature of the tank. We'll drop it to about 35, 38 degrees. So all that yeast will settle at the bottom. And then once that's done, we're ready to then move it through a very important machine, which is our centrifuge, which is what we use to clean up a lot of our beer and filter it. I'm not sure we're gonna be able to get back there, but we might see if we can sneak a peek at it. So right back here, we have a very important machine. That is our centrifuge, which is this bad boy right here. This centrifuge is what we're gonna use to filter the beer, to clean it up. Spins that beer at about 6,000 RPM, which is about 10 G's of force, which is more than what an astronaut experiences coming back down to Earth. Very, very fast, spins it around, pulls out any of that excess yeast matter that we don't want, along with any other particles that might create an off flavor later on down the road when it's sitting on shelves. So very important machine. It can drain one of these 60-barrel tanks in about 45 minutes to an hour if we really need it to. And once it's done cleaning that beer up, we're gonna send it to the north end of our building, where we're finally gonna begin the packaging process. So that's where we're gonna head over to next.
There's your mother load.
Yummy, 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 yummy. I'll take them all.
During that fermentation process, we're gonna get some more carbonation back in. That's gonna happen in those tanks right back there. So those are called our tax determination tanks, or our bright tanks, because that centrifuge took the beer and it brightened it up, made it nice and bright and see-through. But it's called a tax determination tank because this is where the government will take their slice of the pie. So we will be taxed on both the state and federal level based on the number of gallons or barrels sitting in these tanks back here, because the government always has to slip in at some point, right? So that happens there for us. We consider it beer once it's done fermenting over here. The government considers it beer when it's sitting in these tanks. But once it's done carbonating, takes roughly about 2 hours depending on what beer. We're then ready to package it, and that happens either through our kegging machine or our canning machine. Our kegging machine, which you can see right here, is a pretty state-of-the-art kegging machine. Right now we can do about 60 kegs an hour, and that's both clean and fill, which is a lot better than what it used to be. We used to have to clean all of them by hand, turn them upside down, rinse them out, fill them by hand, drag them to a pallet. They're about 155 pounds each. Do that about with 8 more kegs for about 9 more hours for about 6 more months. And turns out a lot of people don't really like brewing after they do that for a while. But you know, everybody and their mom just thinks like brewing is just drinking on the job the whole time. But this is the way we kind of filter people out. It's like accounting 101 in business school, right? This is what, you know, weeds people out. So, but now we have a nice fancy machine that does it for us. And then what's really unique is you might be able to see here on the left side, there's that big orange tube coming down from the end. Because these kegs get so heavy, what happens is we can actually use that tube and suction cup to the top of a keg, and it turns that 155 pound keg into about 35 pounds. You can lift it up with just 2 fingers.
That saves a couple backs here.
It does, yes. A lot of backs, a lot of insurance claims too. No, so really important machine. If we don't do the kegging machine, we're gonna send it to our canning line. But before we talk about how the canning line works, I'm talking about why we do not bottle our beer and why we actually do focus on canning specifically. So no matter how brown you make the glass, right, light is still going to be able to get through it. That's why we can see the beer inside there. This beer has been in this bottle for probably about 14 years. This is my original tour piece that I've been using ever since. But obviously we can see that beer, which means light's getting through. And what happens is light is going to break down what are called the alpha acids, which are naturally found inside all hop varieties. And when those alpha acids break down, it's going to skunk the beer. Give it kind of a skunky taste or a skunky smell is what we call it. That's the off flavor that we note it as. Now these little crimps here are not airtight. They're going to allow oxygen to seep through, which over time is going to oxidize the beer. It's It's going to make it go flat and give it what we say is kind of a wet cardboardy taste or smell. So we say unless you like drinking, skunky wet cardboard, I personally don't, we suggest drinking out of cans. Obviously, cans are impenetrable to light. There's going to be no oxygen exposure until you pop that tab. And also, all of our cans are lined with a food-grade liner on the inside, so the beer never touches any metal or aluminum. Because some people still complain, oh, I taste aluminum when I drink out of cans. I'm like, that was maybe back in like the 40s and 50s, but that's not the case anymore. All cans are going to be lined, not just ours. Everyone's is. Some people still say it, and what we tell them is like, it's just because
You're smelling the top.
Yeah, you're smelling the top. The oil's on your nose, rub against the top. You smell it. It's psychosomatic. It creates the taste. It doesn't actually exist. It's all up here. So for a lot of reasons, cans truly are better. Cans are basically just mini kegs, right? Everyone likes a beer right off the draft. Same thing, except you don't have to deal with all the lines, right? Pop that open, it's as fresh as can be. This is actually a pretty unique can. This is the original can design that we used to use with our original logo, and then we used to just put a sticker on to represent what beer was in it. Now we obviously have our own printed and designed cans. We have our own art department here in town, or actually here right in the back of the building, where we design everything ourselves. But this is kind of the original can, and we also have a lot of other unique cans here, especially the Gen Con beers. We've been making Gen Con beers for years.
Ooh, let's see it.
And these are some of all the different canned beers that we've done throughout the years. 20-sided rye was a fantastic one. Dragon's Delight, incredibly popular. It was so popular we had to make it again. This was around when I first started. Drink On and Prosper, Brutron, and then one of my favorite pieces of artwork was the dragon here.
Oh, that is great artwork.
Yeah. We have a couple more of the posters right up there on the left where you can see a couple of the other ones.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Froth of Con was done the year before I started, so that was about 2014. Yeah, 2013. I started 2014.
So you like gaming too, don't you?
A game here and there. I've done a couple D&D campaigns. I'm a Dragonborn paladin.
Awesome.
So I haven't dived into the character in a while, but I'd like to throw a sword around here and there. Catan is my game. I love Catan.
All right.
That's my go-to. Love me some Catan. Love getting the sheep port. Just collect as many sheep as you can.
That's the key to winning.
That's my usual strategy. All right. So another interesting thing about cans is they're obviously infinitely recyclable. You can take cans. A lot of places you cannot take bottles. Parks, beaches, things like that. So for a myriad of different reasons, cans just truly are better. A lot of breweries have been moving towards cans over the last 5-10 years, so much so that actually back during COVID, we actually had aluminum can shortage because so many breweries had converted to aluminum cans, but then also so many breweries were now selling to-go beer because everybody was stuck inside and became alcoholics because we had nothing else to do. So there was actually an aluminum can shortage. We luckily kind of saw it coming. We were able to save a bunch of our unused cans and reuse them, which was great, but we're now outside of that. We've moved on, but yeah, pretty well timed. Bean came all the way from Italy. It's Italian made, so you know it's good. What's going to happen is we're going to put a pallet of cans like that one you see there. It's going to raise up the elevator and get pushed over, and then it's going to begin the roller coaster here. It's going to get cleaned and sanitized through this tube here. It's going to get turned upside down, sanitized. It's going to come out the back, and then it's going to get moved to the main component here. Right now, this is our Cantronic, and it does about 80 to 90 of our 16-ounce cans a minute, and about 111 of our 12-ounce cans a minute. We have 12 fillers that we're using, but we could put up to 24 fillers on it, which would get us up to 200 cans a minute if we really wanted to. But right now, we're just at 12. The can is going to enter that main component. It's first going to get filled with oxygen. CO2, because CO2 is heavier than oxygen, so it pushes that oxygen out. We're then immediately going to fill it with the beer. We're then going to put a lid on top of it, one that isn't so bent. It's going to go right down on top, and then it's going to get bent right over that metal, and it's going to create what we call a hermetic seal, where that metal bends over the metal and creates an airtight seal. So we have two seamers that do that, and then once it comes out here, this little side door, right where this red, yellow, and green light are, that's actually an X-ray machine. That's actually going to be shooting gamma rays at it.
Oh, we can turn into the Hulk?
It doesn't turn it green. does not turn to green, it actually measures that it's going to be right at the 12 or 16 ounces we need it to be at. If it's not, right over here, this little box here is actually a little punching arm. And if it doesn't meet the 12 or 16 ounce requirements, just like Gandalf, we do not let it pass. We're actually going to punch it out. We're going to extract it. We're going to recycle it. And then we're going to send a message back to the main component letting it know, hey, this was not filled right. And every can after that is going to be right at the 12 or 16 ounces we need it to be at. So last I was told, which was a while ago, we only lose about 1 out of every 400 cans. I'm sure it's a lot better since, but a very efficient machine as it learns. So yeah, do not get a lot of rejections. But as it travels the rest of the way down here, we're going to have an expiration date printed on the bottom. And then on the other side of this platform is where we're going to package it. And then from there, we're going to load it onto a pallet and then get it shipped off to the rest of our bars and restaurants.
Ooh, it's nice and cool in here.
Feels a lot better. So this is just one of our coolers. You can see quite a big storehouse of kegs. We'll go through all these kegs in just a couple weeks.
Oh wow, it's that fast in the turnaround.
Yep. You can actually walk in here. I'll show you kind of our tap system too. So we obviously have a storehouse of cans. This is a small portion of our cans. Some of this beer is going to be going down to Gen Con, so we'll be selling through this very quickly down there.
Awesome. So this is the pregame right here.
It's pregame. And then this is our draft system that fills our tap room.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So you can see every single one. We can have a multitude of different varieties. We used to have smaller bright tanks that we used, but now we've changed up our draft system so that we can have a massive variety of beers, so we can just put any different number of variants that we create. We go through quite a bit of specialties. Like I said, we used to do maybe 6 beers at a time when I was here. Now we can have 25, 28 beers on at a time. It's pretty incredible.
Oh, so where's the special Gen Con beer?
Special Gen Con beer.
Where's the cap?
That I think it's this.
Ooh.
No, that's a State Fair cotton candy. Faded.
Can we find it?
Faded. Imported. Tormented Tigers. Oh, I think it's this one. Yeah, Core Strategy. Here it is.
Oh, here we go. This is the Gen Con beer right here. Core Strategy. Check it out.
On the secret tap.
It is tapped. It is ready to go, gamers.
Alright guys, so this is 115 and this is where we do our King's Reserve line of beers. That is our spirit aged beers and our sour beers. There's a couple different areas that we do that, but the most important thing about this building is Charlotte. Charlotte was found in a dumpster about 10 years ago, and she's had this beautiful home ever since.
I was there.
You were there?
I was there.
Amazing.
Me and Rick Ladd.
I was going to say, Rick and Porter saved good old Charlotte here, and now she keeps us company. And this is what we use to create ambiance. But if you turn it on, it sounds like a seagull getting choked out because it's so old. So I don't turn that on anymore.
That's actually official Florida ambiance.
Yeah,
It's the sound of a seagull getting choked
so
out.
it sound like home. It sound like home. We're gonna go check out our spirit aged cooler now. All right, so now we're gonna check out our spirit aged cooler. This is where we hide the real fancy stuff. So here we go. Another dungeon. Yes, come on in. So this is where we do our spirit aged beer. So this is where we take a beer that we brewed either next door or here, and we're gonna put it into a barrel that originally had a spirit in it. So whiskey, rum, gin, tequila, bourbon, you name it, we've probably used it. We're gonna let it sit and we'll let it age, usually for a minimum of 6 months, but most of the time it's gonna be upwards of a year, maybe 2 or 3 years that the beers are gonna sit here.
Wow.
And so we always try to pair the beer with the barrel very specifically. So if we have a light beer, we're gonna pair it with a barrel that has a nice light char to it. If we have a heavy beer, like a Russian Imperial Stout, we're gonna pair it with something like a Jack Daniel's barrel that has a deep, rich, dark char. So we're always trying to complement the flavors. And also this room is actually temperature controlled. So it fluctuates by about 5 to 10 degrees a couple times a month. And what that does is it expands and contracts the pores of the wood. And when it expands, it's going to bring that beer into the pores, and it's going to get it inoculated with the spirit that it was originally in it, along with any of the wood sugars. And then when it gets colder, it's going to contract, and it's going to push that beer back into the barrel. And that's how we get that mixture happening, where we then get it infused with all those different flavors. So we have a lot of different types in here. You can see Wee Muckle, this is basically our Wee Mac, but twice the grain base that we've aged here now. What barrels do we have in here? So this is going to be Wee Muckle and bourbon barrels. We have our Belgian triple, our Ouija heavy, which I believe is maybe a Russian Imperial stout. There's a couple of old ones in here. They're kind of hard to track down. 2024. I think the real old ones are all the way back there. Some of the other fun stuff here. We have like Ouija heavy from 2023. So like I said, we've been aging some of these for quite a long time. Yeah, brewed that back in May, filled it in June, and it's been sitting here and aging ever since. So
I bet that's going to be good.
it's going to be very good. Now, some of the other special beers we have to keep under lock and key. The very first beer that Sun King ever made was called Johann the Barley Wine. Right here, you can see this tag. So these are some cans of Johann.
Oh, wow.
So
That's history right here.
Yeah, we brewed our first batch in 2009. I believe this is aged, and I'm guessing canned in February 22nd of 2012. So this is some very rare stuff. I was lucky enough to try some barrel-aged Johann about 5-6 years ago. No, this would have been about 10 years ago now. I'm getting old. During like a special little tasting we did. But yeah, we have some of our very ancient stuff here, and then a lot of other specialty beers that we use to send out to competitions for different awards, like the Great American Beer Festival and things like that. So some really fun beers there.
Can I show them the Gen Con cans real quick?
Oh yeah, I didn't see it.
Ooh. We got the Gen Con cans here?
See the Gen Con cans here.
All right, check that out.
Oh, nice.
We had to find them in the deep chiller.
We had to go through a dungeon or two.
So it's all the same beer, just 4 different labels. So you can sort of like a trading card thing. You can trade with your buddy that got lucky to get the dragon, or trade for the skull or the tiki guy. You know, there's 4 different varieties.
Oh, who's that one over there?
There we go.
Oh, nice. The angry apple.
Yep.
Cool. Well, we achieved. I think we just got ourselves into the Horde of the Dragon over here and found the beer for Gen Con.
We're gonna sample our Diddy Muckle first. So this is our Wee Muckle, which is our Wee Mac base, but basically just ×2. So it's twice the grain base. So it makes it a wee heavy beer, which is already at about 9% ABV. We then aged it in bourbon barrels, so that jumps it up to about 11 to 12% ABV. Very, very good award-winning barrel-aged beer that we've done. We're also going to try then a sour beer. So this is one that you don't currently get on the taps right now. So the Great Rhubarbarian, a sour aged with rhubarb, which at first you're going to be like, rhubarb? Weird.
Rhubarb?
This is one of the best sours I think we've ever made.
Oh, wow.
It's one of my favorites. It's super, super good.
Hey, I trust your voodoo around here.
Yeah, so we're going to give a couple samples here. Diddy Muckle, wee heavy, aged in bourbon barrels. Now we always like to say, if you want to look like a professional, you want to warm it up a little bit. You know, you can kind of move it around in your hands or cup it. You'll want to drink these beers at about 55 degrees. Helps to warm it up so that your palate doesn't get too cold, and you can taste all the nuance of the wood sugars and that spirit that was originally in it. So when you get it to be a little bit warmer, kind of cup it, let it warm up just a little bit, then you get it right where you want it to be. We're giving it a nice big whiff here though. So you're gonna get a lot of that bourbon, a lot of that sweetness. Kind of mixes in with the vanilla from the wood and some of that oakiness too.
Oh, good Lord, this is good. Woo!
Very, very good. A little bit of that spiciness from the bourbon.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it mixes so well with the heaviness of that wee heavy.
Yeah.
That is so good. Tom was gonna love this.
Well, he's here. He's out there paying the Uber guy.
Well, there you go. And we'll have a sample waiting for him.
He is gonna love this. This is so in his wheelhouse.
Wee Mac is his favorite.
Thank you, American Airlines, for getting you here so darn late. But we got a beer for you, bro. Come on over here.
Cool.
You're gonna love this.
Well, we have a beer for you.
Which one is it?
This is our Diddy Muckle. So this is
Diddy
a
Muckle?
Scottish style wee heavy aged in bourbon barrels.
Sounds like something I would like.
Yeah.
Up
So
your
this is
alley.
probably about 1 to 2 years old, aged in bourbon barrels. So it's probably at around 11%, 12% ABV. It's big, it's rich,
Oh yeah.
and it's excellent.
You
It's a good one.
described it as WEMAC on.
WEMAC on
On
steroids. So
steroids.
it's
I do like WEMAC.
Yeah, it's like WEMAC with twice the grain base, which is what makes it technically a Scottish wee heavy. So that bumps it up to about 9% ABV, and then we age in bourbon barrels, and that bumps it up to the sales.
Yeah, I recently had one of your seasonals. It's become one of my favorite ones. I'm sad it's not only going to be around a little bit. The Amber Has Two Moms.
Amber Has Two Moms, another classic. Yeah, we usually make that every year for Pride Month.
So, how was it?
Very good.
Glad you could make
Is that
it.
going to make it to Sarasota?
I
That I
know.
don't know. I don't know. I don't have the logistical power quite there, but we're drinking it now. So we're gonna try, like I said, the Great Rhubarbarian. So this is a sour beer that we actually aged with rhubarb. So red, I believe it's a WEMAC base, I think, in red wine barrels with rhubarb. And you think rhubarb, what are you putting that into a beer? One of the best sours I think we've ever made. It's super, super
Pie
good.
is amazing.
Now I always tell people,
Grandpa used to grow rhubarb, so.
especially when we go from, like a spirit age sample like we just did to a sour, I always tell people you got to go with this 3-sip rule, which is that first sip is going to shock the palate. It's going to be pretty surprising, especially with like such a tart beer. That second sip is finally going to start to acclimate you, and that third one is when you're finally going to get to the nuance of the beer, right? Some of the finer tasting profiles. So we'll go ahead and take this, and as you can see, yeah, so a little bit of that darker color. So that's that WEMAC base. Cheers.
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 Thanks for coming to Sun King. It's very refreshing.
Yes.
And it's not overly tart either. Like, it's very approachable sour.
I can taste the WEMAC in it.
Yeah, right? Yeah, the WEMAC base, I was like, when they first told me they used WEMAC as a base for a sour, I thought that was the weirdest thing. But like, it creates such a nice profile, and it's not too tart. It's very approachable. Like, this is what I would introduce people to sours, because a lot of people, like, you see their face pucker up and they get like, ugh. But like sours like this one are very approachable, very easy drinking, but still like very rich and complex, because we barrel age our sours. We'll actually go check out some of those. We'll have a little beer to walk with. We'll go check out the sour.
Yeah, and it keeps getting better the more sips you have of it.
Yes, this is where we continue to store some of our sour barrels here. So essentially what's happening here, it's very similar to the spirit age cooler. The difference is it's obviously not temperature controlled. We keep it a little bit hotter in here because that's where these wild yeast likes to thrive. But what's happening here is we are taking usually red wine barrels. We are filling it with a beer. We either brewed in our other facility or here in this building, and then we are going to inoculate it with a wild strain of yeast. That wild strain of yeast is very different than the yeast we're using in the other building, because it's going to eat more of the residual sugar that comes from the wort. And what that does is it drops the pH of the beer, makes it more acidic, and gives it more of that natural tart mouthfeel and taste. Because technically it's tart, it's not necessarily sour, but traditionally they've just been called sour. So we're going to inoculate it with that yeast, and then we barrel age our sours. Not everybody does. A lot of people claim to have sours, but that doesn't mean they barrel age their sours. So these are true barrel-aged sours, and we'll sit these in here for a minimum of 1 year, usually upward of 2, 3, even longer. I mean, this one was filled back in 2020. I know there's a barrel here from 2016 that I found not too long ago.
Wow, that's got to be good.
Yeah, so there are some, actually it's right there. Yeah, so we got a sour lager from 2016 that's still sitting in here and still aging. So we'll let it sit, let it age. It's a very unique process. It actually originated in Belgium. What the Belgians used to do is they would put this wort in cool ships, which were just very wide troughs, but very shallow. And that's where the wort would sit inside of their barns. But they would leave the barn doors and windows open, and then whatever floated in from outside would just settle on that wort. And because they lived amongst farmland, it usually was wild yeast from the local fields, and so that yeast would settle on that wort, and it would spontaneously ferment and then create sours. And so that's where sours originated. We don't have massive cool ships and barns anymore, but we have our own process. But what's unique is Andrew Hood, the guy that runs this program, he took that idea a number of years ago, and he's like, I wonder what yeast is floating in our air here on College Avenue. And so he took I believe a 5-gallon bucket of Sunlight Cream Ale, and he just set it in this room for about 3 to 4 months, and then he just didn't touch it. He came back 4 months later, and he found that cream ale had spontaneously fermented again. And he went and took it, he sent it to a lab, and they did a bunch of science to it. And they found, I think it was around 6 strains of yeast were found in it. 3 of those were documented known strains of yeast. The other 3 were completely never before seen strains of yeast. And so we ended up becoming the proprietary owners of those strands. And now we've continued to use those. We continue to do that experiment. And we continue to create sours with our own unique strains of yeast that you will not find anywhere else in the world.
So you say you've discovered new life.
We've discovered new life.
Awesome.
I believe one of the first ones we created was, we just called it College Avenue because we were right here on College Ave. And again, so like these are some of these sours you won't find anywhere else in the world because these yeast strains have come straight from the air that we're surrounded by. So it's really, really cool. And these yeast strains, we'll also keep them going. We'll continue to feed them sugar, and then they'll continue to evolve. So this yeast strain would give us a certain flavor profile, you know, at the beginning of the year, and as we continue to feed it and it continues to grow and evolve, it'll give us a completely different flavor profile towards the end of the year. And so I think we do it about once a quarter where we kind of try to keep doing this. We have a couple of these yeast strains continuing to grow around here, but I know one of our yeast strains is called Honey Boo Boo. You know, when you find a yeast strain, you can name it whatever you want. So we've had some pretty unique ones, but yeah, this program.
That one aged well.
It did. Yeah. But we've created a lot of really unique beers in here, and again, I always stress that like our barrel aged beers are incredibly unique. Like we take the time, we're very patient, we let Mother Nature do its thing, and sit and create some very complex flavors. So
you've got a barrel here.
Mm-hmm.
Like how many beers do you get out of that particular barrel?
So some of these are different sizes. So this is a 59 gallon. So 59 times, it'll be around, I think, like 3 to 4. No, it'll be about closer to 7 to 8. So you can get quite a few beers. I was never the best at math, but you can get quite a few of these. But then you also might notice, like some of these have these nails sticking out of them, right? So there's a very particular reason why we have those nails here. We can take that nail out, create a stream, get a glass, and then send that off to our lab, or we can taste it to make sure. But what's happening inside, the reason we have that nail there is very particular. We're going to take a look. So this is what is happening inside of all of those sour barrels. When you add that yeast, it creates a pellicle, which is a foam layer that creates an oxygen-safe barrier so that no oxygen can now get to the beer. So that's why we have to have that nail. We usually put that nail just about a little lower than halfway, so that when we do take that out to sample it and test it, we're not disturbing that pellicle at all, so that we can make sure that we're not creating any sort of off flavors. And then we can take that, sample the beer. Does it need to sit any longer? Does it need to rest? Is it ready to be mixed? We can make those decisions. So that's why you'll see a bunch of these barrels with different nails sticking out of them, so that we can go in and test them. And then Andrew Hood has that fantastic job where he gets to sample.
So definitely, we've learned a lot on this tour, and thanks for taking us around.
Of course, happy to have you guys. Welcome to Sun King. I hope you guys learned a thing or two about our sour beers, our regular beers. We've done a lot of great. I mean, the only reason I'd be here for 11 plus years is because we just make an incredibly quality product. We don't beat around the bush. We don't skip corners. I mean, we didn't even enter grocery stores for years because we did not want to pasteurize our beer, which what a lot of craft breweries do. Because Indiana is the only state in the union where you cannot refrigerate your beer in grocery stores, which is very strange.
Weirdos.
A bunch of weirdos here. A lot of old Bible Belt laws. But we actually worked for 3 years investing into our processes, our lab, our equipment, until we finally could produce our beer unpasteurized at such a high level of quality that it can sit on the shelves for 3+ months and still taste the same without being pasteurized. So I've always just loved, like, its dedication to quality, its dedication to giving back to the community. We've raised millions of dollars that we've given back to the community, whether it's by donating our time, donating our beer, donating packages that they can use at different fundraisers and things like that. So yeah, I wouldn't be dedicating Saturdays out of my life if I didn't care about the product and what they did here. So yeah.
Well, thanks for giving us the tour.
No
Can
problem.
I ask you one question?
Yes.
What's your favorite beer?
That's a big one. My go-to is still Osiris. That is like our mainstay pale ale. I drink Osiris all the time. Even when I'm out and about, people are like, how are you not sick of it? I'm like, because it's just a really, really good beer. But we one time did I think it was a bourbon barrel-aged like coconut beer that to this day I still think about. It was like one of my favorite barrel-aged beers that we ever did. It was like infused with coconut. It was super, super good. I'm a sucker for a coconut barrel-aged beer. But we also do one called Symphony for the Devil, which is also, it is a Belgian dark ale aged in bourbon barrels, I believe. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. It's like got a big spice to it. It's like 14% ABV. It's very good.
Yummy. Oh, here we go. Look at this. Samples. Oh, that looks so good. I can't wait to get my lips on that one. This is the first anybody in the public gets to try these.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Nice and gold. Oh, beautiful.
Told me it's good.
We tried this time.
So, to Gen Con.
Try every time.
Cheers.
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 Oh, that's so good. That is so
fantastic.
good. Oh, what do you think, Mr.
Yes.
Will?
Refreshing.
Oh, yeah. Good stuff, huh?
Fantastic. Very refreshing.
Hey there, Misfits. To tell you about this awesome brew, we've got an expert here, brewmaster himself. Introduce yourself to the crowd.
Hey, I'm Dave Colt. I'm one of the co-founders and brewmasters here at Sun King Brewing Company. And you've already consumed your sample, but I'm going to tell you about this delicious apple cider that we came up with this year for Gen Con.
It's so good.
Did it turn out okay?
Oh, yeah. I'm hoping maybe there'll be seconds. I don't know.
Maybe. Pardon me while I take this sip.
I drank mine too fast.
I'm trying to savor.
So this is the official beer of Gen Con.
This is the official beer, Core Strategy, this year. Actually, Kelly, our lead brewer, named it. She was like, hey, normally we, kind of cast a net out there. Sometimes we let the Gen Con folks name it. This year, we let you all choose what style of beer we're going to do. So overwhelming choice was the apple cider.
Oh, so it was overwhelming. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I thought it might have been a tight race at one point, but
It was a little bit. It was for the first couple of days or so, and then the apple cider just kind of pushed its way on out there.
and it's great. And what inspired that? Like, what was your thinking on coming up with this?
Well, knowing that this time of year can be a little warm here in Indy, and we're what would be refreshing and crisp and flavorful all at the same time? So that's, the idea behind the apple cider. This is apple country here too in the Midwest. We're kind of the Napa Valley for apples. The growing conditions are pretty great. We've got universities that have agricultural backgrounds like Purdue and Ohio State, helping to cultivate palm fruits, and this is one of them. And so we're like, we got all this cool, fun stuff. Let's use local.
Definitely a great way to do it.
Yeah.
And Gen Con, you guys have been partnered with Gen Con for a while.
Well, unofficially partnered way back in the day. So if you're some old Gen Con folks, back in 2000 and I want to say 4 is when, because I was the head brewer at the Ram during those times, and we made the first unofficial Gen Con beer. And so as we started Sun King, we were unofficially making Gen Con beer, and then we in 2012, kind of hit them up and said, hey, do you guys want to partner?
Friends. Yeah.
Can we do the official one? And so we started that partnership in 2012.
Well, I know every time we walk out and see the tent, we're like, all right, it's exciting for all of us when we're at the convention.
We're definitely going to be back.
So you guys are fans of gaming too.
Absolutely. I think if I look back, it's been a while since I've played, but I have.
It always is when you got responsibilities.
Yeah. So in junior high and high school, I played D&D. So I've got original player's handbook and monster manual from the late 70s, early 80s.
Oh yeah, I remember I was a youngling here in Indiana. I was playing D&D, and they were like, "No, it's bad.
The devil."
Yeah, the devil. And we were like, "No," but it's great that it's the biggest convention in the United States. I mean, it's the big kahuna of gaming. And it's really cool to have it here.
It's fantastic. We couldn't be happier that Gen Con has found a home here in Indianapolis, and that we continue to get to support the gaming community by making delicious things.
And that is delicious. So,
Cheers and game on!
cheers.